Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in the city of Ulm, in the Kingdom of Württemberg in the German Empire. He was born into a secular Jewish family. His father, Hermann Einstein, was a salesman and engineer who co-founded an electrical equipment manufacturing company, and his mother, Pauline Koch, was a homemaker who had a passion for music. Einstein had one sibling, a younger sister named Maria, affectionately called Maya, who was born 2 years later. The family moved to Munich when Albert was still a young child, where his father and uncle founded Elektrotechnische Fabrik J. Einstein & C., a company that manufactured electrical equipment. Albert's early years were not marked by academic brilliance. In fact, he was slow to speak, not uttering his first words until the age of 3. This led some members of his family to worry about his intellectual development. However, it would later become evident that his mind worked in ways that were simply different from others. As a child, Albert was curious and solitary, often immersing himself in books and thought. He had a particular fascination with science and mathematics from an early age, even though he found the rigid schooling system in Germany stifling and uninspiring. One of the pivotal moments in Einstein's early intellectual life came when he was 5 years old and his father showed him a pocket compass. The invisible force that moved the needle fascinated young Albert and sparked a lifelong interest in invisible natural phenomena. Another significant influence was a series of science books that a family friend brought him. These books opened his mind to the mysteries of the physical world and fed his growing hunger for knowledge. Einstein began his formal education at the Leupold Gymnasium in Munich. He was an average student and often clashed with teachers who valued rote memorization and strict discipline over creative thinking. He did well in subjects he liked, particularly mathematics and physics, but he was uninterested in others, such as languages and history. Eventually, his disdain for the rigid German school system became so great that he left the school without a diploma at the age of 15 and moved to Italy to join his family, who had relocated to Milan due to the failure of their electrical business. In Italy, Einstein continued to educate himself, reading extensively and preparing to enter university. He applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, later the ETH Zurich, but he failed the entrance exam on his first attempt. Although he did well in mathematics and physics, he struggled with subjects outside his area of interest. Undeterred, he spent a year at a Swiss secondary school, the Cantonal School in Aarau, and passed the entrance exam the following year. In 1896, he was admitted to the Polytechnic and renounced his German citizenship to avoid military service, becoming stateless. At the Polytechnic, Einstein studied to become a teacher of physics and mathematics. He was not a model student, he often skipped classes and preferred to study independently. He formed a close circle of friends, including Marcel Grossmann, who would later help him secure a job. Einstein graduated in 1900, but despite his degree, he struggled to find a teaching position. He spent 2 years working odd jobs before finally securing a position as a technical assistant at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern in 1902. This job would prove crucial to his intellectual development. Although it was unrelated to academic physics, it allowed him ample time to think, write, and develop his theories. In 1903, Einstein married Mileva Marek, a fellow student from the Polytechnic. The couple had a daughter, Lieserl, whose fate remains unclear. Some historians believe she was adopted or died in infancy. They later had 2 sons, Hans Albert and Eduard. The marriage was intellectually stimulating at first but eventually deteriorated due to Einstein's demanding career and personal differences. Einstein's miracle year came in 1905 when he published 4 groundbreaking papers in the Annuländer Physik, one of the leading physics journals of the time. These papers covered the photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, special relativity, and the equivalence of mass and energy, E equals mc squared. Each paper alone would have been a significant contribution to science. Together, they revolutionized physics. The photoelectric effect paper later earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. Special relativity challenged the traditional concepts of space and time, suggesting that the laws of physics are the same for all non-accelerating observers and that the speed of light in a vacuum is constant regardless of the observer's motion. This theory introduced the idea that time and space are interconnected in a four-dimensional spacetime continuum. In 1909, Einstein left the patent office after being offered a professorship at the University of Zurich. He quickly gained a reputation as one of the most brilliant minds in Europe. Over the next several years, he held academic positions at universities in Prague, Zurich, and Berlin. In 1914, he moved to Berlin to become a member of the Prussian Academy of Sciences and a professor at the University of Berlin. He also became the director of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics. During this time, Einstein continued to develop his theories. In 1915, he completed the general theory of relativity, which extended the principles of special relativity to include gravity. According to this theory, gravity is not a force but a curvature of spacetime caused by mass. This groundbreaking idea was confirmed in 1919 when British astronomer Sir Arthur Eddington observed the bending of starlight around the Sun during a solar eclipse, providing experimental evidence for Einstein's theory. The news made Einstein an international celebrity. Despite his fame, Einstein remained humble and committed to social causes. He used his platform to speak out on issues such as pacifism, Zionism, and civil rights. He was deeply affected by the rise of nationalism and anti-Semitism in Germany. In 1933, when Adolf Hitler came to power, Einstein was in the United States and chose not to return to Germany. He accepted a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, where he would remain for the rest of his life. Einstein became an American citizen in 1940, although he retained his Swiss citizenship as well. During World War II, he famously signed a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt warning that Germany might be developing an atomic bomb, which led to the creation of the Manhattan Project. However, he did not work on the project himself and later became an advocate for nuclear disarmament. In his later years, Einstein focused on unifying the fundamental forces of nature into a single theory, a pursuit known as the unified field theory. Though he did not succeed, his efforts paved the way for future work in theoretical physics. He continued to correspond with other scientists, write essays, and advocate for peace and human rights. He also collaborated with notable thinkers such as Bertrand Russell, with whom he co-authored the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, calling for the reduction of nuclear weapons and the promotion of peaceful conflict resolution. Einstein's personal life was marked by complexity. His marriage to Mileva ended in divorce in 1919, and he soon married his cousin Elsa Lowenthal. He had a strained relationship with his sons, particularly Eduard, who suffered from mental illness and was institutionalized for much of his life. Einstein's later years were spent mostly in solitude, reflecting on science, philosophy, and the future of humanity. He was also an avid supporter of civil rights in the United States. He corresponded with African American intellectuals and activists, including W.E.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson. Einstein spoke out against racial segregation and even refused to stay in segregated hotels. He believed deeply in the dignity and equality of all human beings, regardless of race or background. Albert Einstein died on April 18, 1955, in Princeton, New Jersey, at the age of 76. He had suffered an abdominal aortic aneurysm, which burst. True to his wishes, his body was cremated, and his ashes were scattered in an undisclosed location. However, his brain was preserved without his family's permission by the pathologist who conducted the autopsy, leading to decades of study and controversy. Einstein left behind a legacy that transcends science. His name became synonymous with genius, and his theories reshaped our understanding of the universe. Beyond his scientific achievements, he stood as a symbol of intellectual freedom, humanitarian concern, and the power of imagination. His life story continues to inspire millions around the world, reminding us that even those who start life slowly can change the course of history through curiosity, perseverance, and an unwavering belief in the power of ideas.